All right, Carla, it's been a while since we've sat down and talked tennis. It's been incredibly busy, but nonetheless, here we go. Jumping right into it, Carla, your immediate thoughts as this 2025 Roland Garros just culminated.
Well, I really haven't watched as many matches as we would love to, since we've been teaching. But I actually was excited about watching the finals. I did watch Coco Gauff and Sabalenka, and we just finished watching Alcaraz and Sinner play. I thought it was an exciting final, something different besides seeing the usual Nadal.
Could this final be the new usual? Could it be? And matter of fact, when we were riding, we were going to Walmart, and we were once reminded about how rough prices are these days, and we were talking about this final. Sinner at this point was up 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
I made the comment, could this be the new, a group of guys, two that is, that wins, 20 majors? And your response was what, Carla? In other words, could this be...
My response was, I don't think so. I don't think that they could repeat the 20-something that these guys have. I think that's going to be really tough. But I think then you asked me, well, who's in the top 10?
These guys, meaning, of course, some people that might tune in nowadays might not know too much about, I hate to say, we're old, know much about Federer in his prime, or Djokovic when he was 18, or Nadal when he was 17, 18. But she makes reference to these guys, Djokovic, Nadal, Federer. You can even throw Murray in there. Don't forget about Andy Murray, even though only had a handful. But that was the point I made. Could this be the next Fadal, the Federer-Nadal matchup? And Carla disagreed, and I said, well, wait a minute. Look at the top 10. And honestly, truth be told, Carla and I have not stopped for about 3.5 years. Hence why we don't get to do this very much anymore. But I said, Carla, can you look up real quick? I was driving. Mm-hmm. Can you look up really quickly who is in the top 10 currently? And so she pulled it up. I think she used AI or something, ATP top 10, and it started reading out on its voice. What was it? Fritz, number 4 in the world.
I think Zverev was 3.
Okay.
Djokovic was 6. Ruud.
And then Medvedev was like number 11. Holger Rune was number 10. Yeah. Can anyone roll off
Musetti
the top
was
10?
7?
Musetti was in there at 7. Now,
I was shocked.
So you ask yourself, look, in my opinion, now you say Musetti is like number 7. Musetti's a fine player, one-handed player, a beautiful game to watch, but he was in the thick of it years ago. Right. So here he is at number 7 in the world. No disrespect to Musetti, but when you take the likes of young Alcaraz and Sinner, and you compare them to number 4, Fritz, I mean, it shouldn't be out of the question to see Sinner and Alcaraz in every final underneath the sun, unless they don't separate them 1 and 2 seats on the opposite sides of the draw. Now, this was a multifactorial stew when Nadal and Federer and Djokovic were playing, and because you wouldn't always have the 1, 2, 3, 4. You'd always have, this guy's going to get this guy, and this guy's going to get this guy, because they want to create the media, the shit at the end of the year stuff. I don't think I don't think it's out of the question that there's already some media stuff flaring up with Sinner. He's got the doping thing or the lack thereof. He had the suspension. You have the whole dichotomy of you got to practice every day versus I'm going to take 3 months off because of being suspended. Mm-hmm. And you have to look at these things, and then you look at a Sinner wins the first 2 sets, tight 6-4, 7-6, I think, and then it goes
like 6-2 or something. 6-2.
Then it goes the other way. Well, what happens if you don't play every day? Yeah, sometimes you get the burnout out of the way, you get the burnout, and you're ready to go again. But what do you lack? You lack the everyday fitness, and I think you could argue that is a big point for what happened after running off those 2 sets for Sinner, where Alcaraz was a little bit more battle tested and didn't have to take 3 months off. Now speaking about the girls' game, I didn't particularly care at all about Sabalenka's post-match interview. She indicated that she lost because she wasn't playing very well. She didn't allude to the fact that good job Coco Gauff. So I would agree with you on that one. But
I mean, you're a big Sabalenka fan. I never was.
Well, not big.
You were before, and I never was until they give her a lot of grief for being Belarusian. I became a fan of hers. I never enjoyed the grunting, the screaming, the yelling at the coaches, the blaming, or I don't like those type of players. Hence why Djokovic. I didn't learn to respect him too much later on. I hate seeing someone yell at their coach. I feel like you need to figure that out. That's why you train for a long time. Going back to Sinner, though, yes, you're right. You gave me an example when I decided to play with Gabby. our 12-year-old daughter.
And what?
And you said to me, "Hey,
What
Carla,
did I play with her where? In doubles?
we played a fun tournament."
Well,
and
explain that.
you
What
said to
are you
me,
talking
you might be able to.
Her and my daughter Gabby played a tournament as doubles partners.
Right, and you said you might be able to play every day and feed balls every day, but it's not the same as getting match ready. If you don't play tournaments and you don't play matches, by the time you get to the match, you forget certain things. You miss certain points that normally you would have missed if you had match experience. So I agree with you on the center thing.
This is kind of an interesting thing. So Carla and I, we're tennis coaches, and she does the majority, I would say, of the lessons, and I do all of the tennis court reconstruction, repairs, and racket string. And I try to tell her, I was like, it's mentally taxing teaching and motivating, and I enjoy to do it too, but someone has to do the grunt work, and I think it's a big difference of like sweating bullets and then being mental. I think they both are incapacitating, and that's what helps us very well. So I think that if you look at the tennis aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
you have center that took some time off physically and
Right.
had enough time to think about it mentally.
Right.
But Alcaraz had the ability to keep doing both.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Match ready is different from just
Yeah.
practicing. I think it's two completely different things. But I was glad that Alcaraz won. It's his fifth title. Fifth title. So he's won 2 French Opens. He repeated the French Open. He won it last year. He's won 2 Wimbledons, and he's won 1 U.S. Open. Whereas Sinner's won 3, 2 Australians, and I'm not sure if he won the U.S. Open. I'm not sure about that. Which one? Wimbledon. I'm not sure which one. But I was glad to see Alcaraz win. He puts a lot of hard work into it.
If someone can answer this question, I'll send you a set of Y-Tex strings, a Y-Tex dampener, and a Y-Tex grip band and some Technifiber overgrip. If you can compare how old Rafael Nadal was, or Roger Federer, or Novak Djokovic, or Andy Murray, not really in the ballpark, but I hate to forget about good old Andy there. I was a big Tim Henman fan. Sorry, I like British tennis. Anyway, but can anyone tell me the age of Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and how many majors they had at the same age as Alcaraz now? And you could throw Sinner into the mix, but you said Sinner's at 3 and he's at 5?
Right, I think Alcaraz just turned 22, so he's doing good. He's pretty much on par of what the other guys were.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Roger Federer did not have his first major until he beat Philip Housis in the Wimbledon final in 2002, and he was 22?
22 or
Was
23.
Roger Federer 22 when he won his first Wimbledon?
Could be.
Rafael Nadal, correct me if I'm wrong, was 17, and who did he beat? Gustavo Kuerten? No, who did he beat for his first French Open final? Who did off? Geez, I remember watching this. It wasn't Kuerten. It wasn't Gustavo.
Bruguera?
It wasn't Sergei Bruguera. Wait, I don't know. That's a good question. And I guess for shits and giggles, let's just look at where Murray was at. I know he's not even close, but I'm just curious where he was at 22. So, I mean, if he's got 5 and Roger Federer won his first at 22, Nadal had his first French at 17, but what happened after that? I think there was some space there before he started rolling off, 27,000 in a row.
Well, also going back to your question, the reason I said I don't think these guys can do it is you have to continue to be hungry. And one thing that Nadal, Djokovic, and Federer had is that they were hungry because they were competing against each other. I don't know it's going to be the same for Alcaraz, and Sinner to be hungry watching each other. I mean, I don't know if that's enough one guy to keep pushing you. I don't know.
There was a lot of media. Media is important in all of said things. Media created this whole Federer, this whole Federer Nadal rivalry, and here was the knight in shining armor and the raging bull, hence their logos. I think we kind of mimicked our 5K logo off the Federer logo. The 5 and the K, kind of like the R and the F. Mm-hmm. Here Nadal comes out with the run. Nadal would always play a very intimidating game. Even when he was walked out on the court with the ball boy, he would be gripping the ball, little ball kid, gripping his hand, walking out there. He'd get to the net, the umpire would do it heads or tails, and he's like raging,
Jumping.
Jumping around, and then Federer would be there like this. And then the media would play it like, here's Mr. Smooth, and here's the raging bull. And then all the commercials would be about, and there was so much media hype, and that's what kept the consumers so driven. And that's why when the seeding began to change, like when it wasn't Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, whatever it was, it would always be separated. So in the heyday, Federer and Nadal had a chance to meet in the final. There was many a times where he's like 1 seed, 5 seed, or 2 seed, 7 seed. but they would always be separate. And I remember a lot of us Djokovic fans would be like, man, why do you always set up the Fadal? So Djokovic has to get... Anyway, but I think if the tennis world is to get another Federer, Nadal, Djokovic trio, or Federer, Nadal, or Djokovic, Nadal, however you want to look at it, I think if the tennis world is going to get that, which it desperately needs because we're losing people to lazy-ass pickleball, even college scholarships we're losing to lazy-ass pickleball.
So
we're even shutting down D1 tennis programs and replacing them with pickleball programs. And they got beer bellies to play.
D1, D2, a lot of very, very, very well-known schools are closing down their programs,
Sad.
which I think it's sad, but it's happening everywhere. Going back to the Djokovic thing, I know he played Sinner and lost in 3 straight sets. Do you guys think it's over for him? I pretty much think, I think Little Justin said, he's old.
Little Justin, or 9-year-old.
Little Justin said he's old, and his prime he would have beat Sinner and Alcaraz. And like I told Little Justin, I was like, anyone at their prime could have been different. We don't know that. We could say Agassi and Sampras and Connors and McEnroe and Borg. We could say in their prime. That's why they all came at different times, But I think pretty much for me, just watching a little bit of Djokovic, I think he's done.
Well, we talked about the top 10 a minute ago, and I'm not picking on one individual player. I'm just pulling one out of the hat, per se. We were talking about Musetti. I love Musetti. Beautiful game. I'm a one-hander. He's a one-hander. I don't particularly care to watch anybody play male with 2 hands on the racket on the backhand side. So I like to watch Musetti. But I'm picking on him just because I thought about him.
He retired, by the way. He didn't finish his match. I think he was playing against... I'm not sure if he was playing against Sinner. I think he retired. He was getting bagel.
So where I'm going with this is back to where we began about, is it out of the question that Alcaraz and Sinner get this, 30 majors type thing? Because look at the rest of the top 10. Now you said, should Djokovic retire? Well, number one, Djokovic should never retire. Hopefully he can play until he's 95. But let's be real. At what point, what is the point to continue? Are you going to win more majors? And I say this. When you have great players and you have youth and older age. Now, when I was a kid playing, 27, 28, 29 was nearly retirement age. And let's definitely count our chickens on this one. More tennis players retire before the age of 32 than the age over. And you could probably bring that down these days to the 30s, right?
Right.
Maybe even the high 20s.
They get burned out pretty quickly. Life.
So even though Djokovic is the GOAT, the Goatkovic, let's go Djokovic, Goatkovic, even though I have a Roger Federer tattoo on my back. So I think he was the GOAT of the first 5 years of that. Anyway, but if you look at 36 years old GOAT, and you look at, 22, 23-year-old Alcaraz as a center that have the game, you have to then look at youth, like the tail of the tape. Okay, big forehand, big backhand, okay, smarts, tactics, experience, and then here comes that category, youth. Now, if it was Djokovic 36 and player B 22, but they had a shitty game, they played like Musetti. I'm not saying Musetti's bad; he's 7 in the world. Hence why we're talking about they can roll them off because the disparity between those two and the rest of the top 10, Fritz, Musetti, Rune. Oh my God! I remember when Taylor Rune was yelling or Holger Rune was yelling at his mom. Like just a couple years ago, Holger Rune is yelling at his mother in the audience.
And Zverev, who lost to, I think, Djokovic in the quarters. So
yeah, and Zverev
and
he hates puppies.
Where is he? I mean,
Tsitsipas got lapped up on Badosa Dunky Dunk, and Zverev whipped too many.
And then
Medvedev in the wrong spot.
Medvedev seems to have lost his ways a little bit here, so I don't know.
And the downfall of Zverev was this: when he hired Lendl, and it wasn't Lendl. Lendl was okay, so he hires Lendl. Lendl brings the puppy to practice, and he goes off on Lendl about, I don't want a coach that brings a puppy to practice. How are you gonna hate on puppies?
That wasn't his downfall.
He just brought the puppy to the practice so he would stop whining during practice, and maybe Zverev could pet the puppy. And he still got pissed.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, anyways, going back to the ladies, the Sabalenka match and the Coco Gauff, I heard her interview Sabalenka. She was crying during the award ceremony. And then after that, when they do their interviews, I wish she would have kept her mouth shut and kept what she had to say to herself, because it just doesn't look bad. It doesn't look good being a sore loser.
And what was the flavor of that?
She said, had I let Iga beat me, because she beat Iga, she bageled Iga on the third set, she would have won the French Open. Iga would have beat Coco Gauff. And then she said, the conditions were bad. I didn't play well. It was one of the worst finals I ever played.
Wow,
that is the worst thing you can say.
Shut up.
Kids are watching you. It doesn't matter if it was the worst you played. It doesn't matter if you were hurt. Don't make excuses. One thing, Djokovic, he could be with a tear. He could be playing the worst. He could not be feeling well. and he just says, hey, that person was better than me, they won. And
Let's
that's
go.
it.
Let's
But
go.
I just didn't appreciate that. She did take it back, but it made her look stupid. The reality is that she actually played pretty good. She came to the net, which is not like Sabalenka. She kept coming to the net and winning points. The reality is she felt the pressure. She had many chances. She broke Coco. She had a chance, and they got broken back. I mean, it was a good match, 3 sets, and good for Coco for winning the French Open. It had been
Since her second.
15 years.
She's won it twice, right?
No, she won
That's
a
her
U.S.
first?
Open with Brad Gilbert.
Oh, that's
I don't
right.
know who the new coach is, but it's been 15 years, they said, since another Americans won the French Open. Serena was the last person to do it, so it's good to
wait a
see
minute.
that.
Didn't Coco make a final then? Didn't she?
To win the French
What,
Open.
did she make another French Open final though?
I don't remember who won.
I
No, last year was.
this
I
was
thought
her
last year
second
was
French.
Paolini, the Italian, and I can't remember who. I don't know. I don't even know.
Yeah,
See what I mean? We don't keep up with this.
Well, we do, but not in so much as, like you say, you only remember first place. Like, no
Right.
one remembers second place. It's
Right.
kind of hard to remember that.
But it's been 15 years since the last American, so it's
Yeah.
good to see her win another Grand Slam. Because usually when someone wins one, they usually don't win another one. So she broke that that barrier, I guess. Now she's got 2, and she played good. She played gutsy. I did watch her play gutsy. She went for a lot of shots. So
Yeah, and
kudos to her.
To come
And she
back
looked thick, and
Yeah.
she's over 21, so she looked better.
Well, I do think that being physically fit plus the muscle, kind of like 2010 Nadal when he was at the U.S. Open in all black, that looked like he'd been lifting weights nonstop for a month or 2 or 3 with some help. Just kidding, I didn't mean to go off in that direction, but when you have someone like Sloane Stephens that is very, very fit, very, very strong, and you can see it. You can see it, or she can see she's right now in very good physical shape. And you put them on the clay. The clay slows the game a little bit. Tactics come into play. There's longer rallies for the most part. There's a lot of tactical backhand to backhand with some drop shots and some lobs. There's a lot of finesse and feel in there. Not always big hitting as the
There was
harder
a lot of
grass.
slicing.
There's a lot of slicing.
There was a lot. I saw a lot.
So that makes matches longer.
Yeah.
And if I had Sabalenka on the tail of the tape, as in boxing, and I had Sloane Stephens on the tail of the tape in boxing, I think it would be.
Why are we Sloane Stephens?
Well, you were mentioning that you were just mentioning the women's final.
That Coco Gauff, yeah. Why?
I mean Sloane Stephens.
So
Sorry.
I'm like, who? What?
Coco Gauff. Sorry, I'm a big Sloane Stephens fan too.
Yeah.
Love her. I love her.
Isn't she done with tennis?
I don't know, but that hockey player stole it from me, man. So what that damn
Soccer.
I'm
Soccer.
just kidding.
Soccer.
Whatever. I'm just kidding. This is my life. No. Just kidding. I used to have the hots for Sloane Stephens, and I was thinking about.
She did win she won the U.S. Open. No.
Sloane Stephens, won the U.S. Open over Madison Keys, destroyed her like 1-1 or something, maybe 2-1. Anyway, but what I'm saying is on clay, physicality is a huge factor, and I feel like Sloane Stephens was able to.
Coco Gauff.
Coco Gauff.
He's really thinking about Sloane Stephens.
She was able to get going, and Sabalenka got going early. Then the tail of the tape kind of evened out, and then the fitter kept going. Is what I mean to ask. Now, does that constitute well on grass? We have the Wimbledon that's upcoming, and the hardest thing in tennis is the Wimbledon or the French Open, Roland Garros, Wimbledon double. That means you roll into the French Open, win it, and then you walk onto the grass, the complete opposite speed surface. Ball stays lower. It's just a different animal. Points tend to be shorter. Serves tend to be a lot more boom, boom, a lot higher ace counts normally. If you can come in and roll the French Open, Wimbledon double, I think that is something that sets the best players of all time apart from another. Meaning, I don't think you have to win 20 majors to be one of the best all-around players. I think if you can pull off the French Open Wimbledon double, and not only winning it, maybe just quarterfinal, or round of 16, something like that. I think the best players are the ones that can get deep on the clay and deep in the grass.
You mean adjust?
Yeah. So I think you're still going to see a Alcaraz semifinal again, and I doubt the tournament directors are going to separate them.
Well, they're 1 and 2.
Yeah, they're 1 and 2. So
you can't.
I mean, do you? Okay, let's go down the list. Do you have your phone?
Yeah.
Can you tell me? Can you recite who the men's or the ATP top 10 is currently? Because it's a given. It's almost like you can just go to sleep, pop popcorn, and just wait for the men's final based upon who is behind them.
Okay, so let's see. ATP rankings right now.
Okay, and this is we know. Excuse me. We know number one is Sinner. We know number two is Alcaraz. He's not going to get to number one because he won it last year. Therefore, he didn't lose 2,000 points. He defended his 2,000. Mm-hmm. Who's behind that?
I'm looking right now. I think number three was
it
Zverev.
loading?
It's loading because
because this is going.
Yeah.
So anyway, we don't have to beat it in a horse. You know, you got the likes of Musettis and you got Fritz's and you got Holger Runes and you.
I think Djokovic was number 6.
Djokovic in there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, ask yourself the question. I think for the men's, for Wimbledon, we can just kick back and just watch scores and highlights. If you're a gambling man, I'm not. Bet on a few matches, whatever. But at the end of the day, I think you can set your watch by it's going to be the same final again, which could give someone 4 and one stay at 5, or can move someone to 6 and stay at 3. And then here the count to 20. How many does Djokovic have? 22, 23, 24? He's the GOAT. He has the most.
He has the most.
24?
I think
Djokovic
so.
24? Let's
so.
go, Gokovic.
I don't know.
Let's go! Anyway, so I think you can count your watch on that. So I'd be curious to see how long it would take those two, Sinner and Alcaraz, to surpass Federer, Djokovic, and Nadal. Now remember, take one of those away. Take Djokovic out of the picture when there was 3 of them. Those two, Nadal, Federer, or Nadal, Djokovic, or however you look at it, would have a lot more majors, right? But you throw a third one in there. Do you see a third male right now, young, on the radar, that's going to step into that group of 2 and start beating them consistently?
No,
so,
it's definitely not in. Shelton doesn't have the game, not yet. Not close.
Shelton's in the top 10?
He's like 13, I think.
Oh, okay, whatever.
I don't think there's.
I'm not dissing on Shelton. A great college player, University of Florida. I think his dad coached there. Great story. Great for him. But I'm not electrified by Shelton's overall beautiful game. I see that kind of hot-headed American. Let me hit a big forehand. Let me serve really huge and go, come on! His eyeballs popping out after every point. But I don't see anything from Shelton, no disrespect, that makes me love him as an all-around classy player.
Yes, completely agree.
Anyway, so I think we'll leave it at that. Put it in comments. What are your thoughts on Wimbledon upcoming? What are your thoughts on our analysis on the French Open? What are your thoughts on pickleball overtaking some Division I scholarships? What are your thoughts on the world entirely right now? Carla and I, we don't do this show very much anymore because we can't afford to miss one day of work. We miss one day of work, I mean, literally, you could say we're really in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. So the reason why we don't is because of that, and right now we just have a phone, so sorry for the crappy quality. It's just our phone. We don't have a laptop or anything. So this is our first show since moving, and when we moved, we kind of lost all that stuff. But here's to hopefully building back that laptop and front-facing camera and not my phone soon. Anyway, leave in comments a number 1 in comments if we should do this more often. Leave a number 2 if we just shut the hell up and go back into nowhere. And then also click a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm of the video. And please leave a comment. We'll be more than happy to talk with you in comments or in the kind of the group chat, the community. And it really helps us out economically and boosts the algorithm of the video.
Absolutely.
All right? Let's go!
Adios, guys. Take care.